Welcome to BC's Office of the Human Rights Commissioner's web-based learning session, Systemic Discrimination, Part 2, What We Can Do. Our office is located on the unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations. We feel it's important to acknowledge the territory in a session that focuses on systemic discrimination because of historical and ongoing systemic discrimination against Indigenous peoples as a result of colonization and the policies and practices that were put in place and maintained afterwards. Considering actions we can take to address systemic discrimination against Indigenous peoples, beginning with a territorial acknowledgement, is an important part of decolonization.
This self-guided learning session consists of 5 recorded modules. Each module builds on the learning from the previous one. You're encouraged to watch the modules in order, but you may choose to select only those modules that focus on the information that you are unfamiliar with or would like to review. The session is self-paced, so feel free to pause, rewind, repeat, and play the video at a speed that works for you. For closed captioning, you can click on the CC button at the bottom of the recording. There are 3 types of interaction to support learning. The first type of interaction is reflection. Facilitators will invite you to pause and reflect throughout the sessions. Consider pausing the recording, reflecting on the question, and recording your reflections on a paper or Word document if you find that helpful. The second type of interaction is through our fillable handout. Handout packages are provided for each module, and some of the handout pages are formatted as fillable forms that you can complete after the module. Finally, some of the slides in this presentation can be used as tools that you can use after completing the module to reflect on how systemic discrimination appears in your settings. These slides have a tool icon on them. We have also provided learning supports to accompany the 5 module recordings that are posted on the webpage. A PDF of each module presentation and accompanying handout package can be downloaded using the buttons beside each recording.
We'd like to begin by introducing British Columbia's Office of the Human Rights Commissioner. BCOHRC was reinstated in 2019 after a 17-year absence under Commissioner Kasari Govender, pictured on this slide. Commissioner Govender was appointed to a second 5-year term in September 2024. The role of our office is to provide access to justice on issues that the individual complaint system can never fully address. Our vision is a province in which everyone's human rights are respected and our responsibilities to one another are met. BCOHRC has a specifically systemic mandate. Our goal is to address the root causes of inequality, discrimination, and injustice in BC, rather than the ways it shows up in individual incidents. We do this work by shifting laws, policies, practices, and cultures. I think it's important to note that the Commissioner is an independent officer of the legislature. This means that she reports directly to the legislature and so is nonpartisan and can act independently of whatever party is in power. The role of the Human Rights Commissioner in British Columbia is created by law, the BC Human Rights Code, and that makes our office more stable as we're not a political body. The independent officer status of the Commissioner also allows the Commissioner to monitor the activities of government and organizations that hold responsibilities under the Human Rights Code. On the next slide, we'll consider the different actions that this independent status allows BCOHRC to take to advocate for change and to address systemic discrimination. Before considering potential actions to address systemic discrimination, it's important to clarify the focus of today's session, which is related to the role our office plays. You may be familiar with the work of civil society organizations. These are non-governmental and not-for-profit organizations that advocate for change in society based on specific values and goals. To understand the focus of today's session, we'll take a moment to clarify the similarities and differences between the work of civil society organizations and the work of our office, BC's Office of the Human Rights Commissioner. You'll see on the slide at the top that economic and political forces in the world influence both our office and civil society. Social movements such as Black Lives Matter and #MeToo are developed to address these social issues. Through its mandate of systemic change, BCOHRC often focuses on issues that civil society is also addressing. To take action on systemic discrimination, BCOHRC uses the tools for our office that are assigned to us under BC's Human Rights Code. These tools include things like inquiries and investigations, providing recommendations to the legislature, and interventions in human rights-related legal cases. Many civil society organizations use different tools. These may include things like letter writing, petitions, protesting, and providing direct services to groups impacted by systemic discrimination. Those tools are not part of our BCOHRC mandate, so these actions will not be a big focus of this session. To honor the expertise and work done by these civil society organizations, we will be sharing examples of civil society actions later in this session. The middle part of this diagram shows some actions both BCOHRC and civil society organizations carry out. These can include education, communication, engagement with community, and advocacy for policy change. That's where we overlap with civil society organizations. BCOHRC can support civil society and social movements in other ways. These examples can include reports created by a research and policy department. These reports provide information and recommendations to help advocate for change related to systemic discrimination in different settings. For example, some settings might include policing, immigration detention, poverty, and homelessness. You can find more information about those reports in our handout package.
Okay, we'll take a look at some of the goals we plan to accomplish this session. After completing all 5 modules, you will review the key characteristics and impacts of systemic discrimination, consider reasons for taking action, reflect on examples of systemic discrimination in your organization or community that you would like to see addressed, become familiar with potential actions to address issues in your organization or community, and consider and identify resources for next steps. The session Introduction to Systemic Discrimination provides an overview of systemic discrimination and its impacts. We'll quickly share some tools from that session, but we won't review them in detail. We encourage you to consider completing the Introduction to Systemic Discrimination web-based session or to register for a webinar before participating in this Part 2 session. Information about both the web-based session and the webinar version are available on our website. Before we get started, I wanted to highlight that we will discuss and share videos with examples of systemic discrimination and its impact, and that this may bring up a variety of responses and strong emotions. We invite you to do what you need to do, and that can include pausing the recording, stepping away for a few minutes to take care of yourself, or doing whatever else that will help you. These feelings may also appear after the session has ended, and our handouts package includes a list of supports. Okay, this is an introductory session and no prior knowledge or experience in taking action is acquired, but we're going to ask you to reflect on these questions now and at the end of the session, and this will help us to identify how successful we were in supporting you in meeting the session learning goals. For this and all reflection questions during these modules, please feel free to pause the recording and take the time you need to reflect. For this time, take a few minutes to reflect on the 3 questions on the slide. And you might want to write down your answers so that you can compare them with your answers at the end of these modules. The first question is, how interested are you in taking action to address systemic discrimination? And you can rate your answer from 1 to 5, with 1 not at all interested and 5 extremely interested. The second question is, can you identify examples of systemic discrimination in your community or organization that you would like to see addressed? And you can answer yes, no, or not sure. And finally, are you aware of actions that could be taken to address systemic discrimination in your community or organization? And again, you might want to respond yes, no, or not sure. Let's take a minute to introduce the different learning modules for this web-based learning session. You're coming to the end of Module 1, which is the session introduction. Module 2 considers the importance of taking action to address systemic discrimination. In Module 3, we focus on identifying an example of systemic discrimination that you would like to see addressed. Module 4 looks at examples of actions that we can take. And Module 5 provides strategies and tools to get started on planning and taking action on systemic discrimination. In the next module, we'll briefly review the key indicators of systemic discrimination and consider why it is important to take action. Before proceeding to Module 2, we invite you to download the PDF of this presentation, as well as the handout for Module 1. The handout includes lists of supports you might find helpful. It also contains information and links to BC OHRC reports that may support your efforts to take action on systemic discrimination. Thank you for participating in Module 1 of Systemic Discrimination.